Welcome to the Lay Low Pod, the podcast that keeps it real while you figure things out. I'm Erin, and let's lay low. If you're in a season of becoming where life doesn't look how it used to, but not quite how it will, you're in the right place. Sometimes to grow, you have to lay low. Hello, my friends. So happy you're here. Thank you for coming to Lay Low Pod. I am really loving this format so far. I wasn't really sure what to expect when I decided to sit on my bedroom bed with a microphone and ideas and thoughts and see what comes out of my mouth. It's a scary idea, but so far so good. I am surprised how much I am thinking about what I want to say. It's almost like the more that I talk, the more ideas I have, which to me means I'm on the right road for me. So, whether or not you are just stopping by for the first time, or if you have caught some of my past podcasts, I'm so glad you're here. Yesterday was Mother's Day. It was a beautiful day. I got to spend it with my son, Troy, who is 21. And I did not get to spend the last two Mother's Day with Troy. He was on a Mormon mission. He went to Houston, Texas, and he got home last September. People ask, how did that go? How did you let your son go away for 2 years where you couldn't see him, where you could only talk to him once a week? How did it go? And I already look back on the experience as such a positive, great thing, especially for him. He came home completely different and he matured on his Mormon mission. He learned a lot. He grew a lot. And as much as I hated him being away from me for 2 years, because let me tell you, I tried to talk him out of this. I was like, you can go travel, you can go to college, you can really do whatever you want to do, or you can serve a Mormon mission. And he really did go for all the right reasons. And I wasn't sure how he would do, and he just blew me away. It was such a good experience. But I did miss not having him for holidays. It was definitely hard. But this year, I got Troy Boy home for my first Mother's Day in a few years to have him here. But my younger son, Colt, is away. So it's just kind of funny how much change is still happening for me when it comes to my boys. And you might be in the same boat where holidays are coming and things are kind of looking different. But Colt is in Texas now himself selling Vivint security systems. So I am excited for him to launch his little sales career, which is so fun that he is experiencing that in Texas and growing himself. But I did miss him for Mother's Day. So it was just kind of funny how one son comes home, the other son leaves, and I'm learning that that is probably just what the future looks like for me and maybe for you as well. You know, it doesn't have to be a divorce that changes holidays. It can be parents passing away. It can be kids going away for college. I hope that there are college kids listening right now who are away from their homes for the first time or are about to and missing holidays. And I hope that you can be here as well and kind of think about how holidays can look different as you change. That's what we're going to be talking about today. We're always changing, we're always evolving, yet we have holidays and traditions that pop up, seems like every month if you really think about it. But 8, 10 times a year, you have these special days connected to special memories and traditions, and you want them to look the same that they have always looked. But guess what? We are changing, we're evolving, and life is changing. The only thing you can count on in life is change. That's something that I tell my boys all the time, but the more we can adapt to change, the better off we're going to adapt to life. And holidays is one of those really hard things. I just this last week, one of my friends is in a really hard season right now where both of her parents passed away within a week of each other in completely two different ways. And I was talking to her last week in person, and one of the first things she mentioned was, what is Memorial Day going to look like? What is the 4th of July going to look like without my mom here? Because that's what she did. She made those were our holidays where we'd be there and she had everything planned. What is it going to look like now? And That has been on my mind along with Colt and his friends that are missing their first Mother's Day, their first 4th of July. And I wanted to talk about it just because I have gone through a lot of change, especially in the last 8 years, where I've had to really look at holidays much differently than I did before. And I wanted to share some of those thoughts and feelings and experiences. But holidays, are they're one of those things that mean a lot to us because it's usually connected to family. It's connected to the people that we love the most. Connected to such fun thoughts and feelings. And when those things change, it's almost like your identity changes a little bit, and it can be really hard to navigate, and it's okay to talk about. When I was first getting, unraveling with my marriage, my birthday is 11/11, and that was really the first day that we talked about a possible separation. And then, you're going into the holiday season. I remember Halloween being very difficult. I remember Thanksgiving being extremely difficult at my in-laws. I remember just sitting at the kitchen table in tears the entire day. And my sister-in-laws would come up, my brother-in-laws would come up and give me a hug, and they didn't really understand exactly what was happening at that time. They knew I was struggling and that we were struggling, but they didn't really know what it really looked like and what was going through my head, but they would come up to me and just hug me. And the thoughts that I had in that moment are very clear to me still. And it was just, how am I going to move forward without this family? And how am I going to move forward without some of these memories? The 4th of July especially was extremely important to my in-laws, and we had such good memories over all the years of parades and barbecues and cousins, and I just had that really strong on my mind that Thanksgiving, thinking about how are my traditions going to look? How are my holidays going to look without my family that I love? Because I still do love them very much. That went into Christmas, which was definitely a traumatic time. We had to kind of work through Christmas as a holiday post-divorce because there were a lot of hard emotions connected to Christmas because of the last one that we shared together. And we ended up starting our separation January 1st. So we had a really hard holiday season. And I remember the separation was for 3 months. And then we sat down and said, let's be the best exes that we can be. And whoever loves our kids, let's show the other love. And let's just really try to do that right. That's really what we did. And, the process of a divorce is not fun when kids and money are up for grabs, right? But we have really been able to find a lot of peace and friendship after all that was behind us. And holidays just looked very, very different after my divorce. We had a very typical standard Utah divorce decree where it split up holidays based on the calendar year, and you basically were assigned certain ones. And we were assigned a summer stretch where we got the kids for a set 2 weeks in the month of July where we could do some sort of summer vacation. But it was very cut and dry what holidays looked like at the beginning, and it really stirred up a lot of hard feelings. I remember the first Mother's Day, where here I am just alone with my kids, and how you're so grateful, but how different it looks. And it just it was really hard. It was really hard. Even those little holidays were hard. And you don't have to be going through divorce to hopefully relate to this because there's so many different types of change. I'm just sharing with you my experience with change came from this, but it could honestly just be kids leaving. It could be parents moving across country. It could be you moving across country where you don't have those normal people to celebrate with. It could be a lot of things how holidays can look different. But when I was going through my change, somebody told me the best thing that you can do, I remember who it was too, it was Bonnie, my friend Bonnie, told me that the best thing to do after divorce with holidays is to start new traditions. And she told me that and very early on, and I thought, okay, start new traditions. Then another friend told me that they adapted to holidays with change, and they said, whenever there was a holiday that I didn't have my kids, I would travel. I would go somewhere new or I would go visit somebody who I could stay with. So those two things together stayed with me. And I think that after divorce, for me, I was on such a budget. Like, you guys, I'm telling you, like very low budget. I basically had enough child support to cover my rent, but I didn't get, I always worked. I've worked since I was 14 years old. So when you work, you just continue working after divorce. So I really was in work mode, but I still wanted to give the boys experiences of traveling. And also, I just wanted to explore. I felt myself changing so much and just becoming a new version of myself. And when I would go to a new place, when I would travel to a new city or explore, I felt like I opened up a new part of myself. So during the season when I was changing so much, I just craved travel, but I had a very low budget. So I remember one 4th of July that I went to Texas to see my friends Shanae and Ammon, and what a beautiful holiday that was with them and their kids. And then I remember another 4th of July that was also very special as well. During my little 2-week stretch in July, I went to New York City for 10 days by myself. And I was on such a budget that people probably are going to laugh at this, but I spent $600 for 10 days of staying at an Airbnb in Brooklyn, and it was just a room. So there were like roommates there. It was like the 6th floor of an apartment building, and there was no elevator, and it was July, so it was definitely hot. But I went to New York City on a budget, and I was just going to do whatever I wanted for 10 days. And I figured it out. I watched my Google Flights. I got this cheap Airbnb room, and I was on my way. And it was the 4th of July, and what was on my mind? What was happening with my boys? They were with their grandparents. They were with their cousins. They were having the time of their life. They were their favorite holiday in the small town parades, and they were just so happy. And I was trying to channel my own happiness while thinking of them and their happiness, and trying to just kind of get through the holiday in my own way while still thinking about how happy that they would be during those moments, during those days with their family. And at the very beginning, I think that travel for me during this time of change, it really just made me feel like anything was possible, like the world was my oyster, that anything could happen. I felt like a new city just would breathe new life into me in such a unique way, and I just wanted more and more and more of it. But this New York City trip was really special. I was working. I spent every morning working on my computer. I could work remote. And so I'd work until about 1 o'clock, and then I would venture off into the city by myself. And don't worry, my parents, I remember them trying to talk me out of this trip because it doesn't matter how old your kids are, right? You're still a parent, and my parents worry about me, I swear, probably more now than ever. And they are amazing parents. And I tell them, I need you to worry about me. I need you to worry about me. I think it's okay. It's good. But this trip, they were not very thrilled about it, about their daughter in Brooklyn for 10 days by herself in some random apartment. But you know me, I just did what I wanted. So I went, and I didn't take one taxi that whole 10 days. I took the subway everywhere. I had a subway pass, and I explored, and I would finish up my work for the day, and then I would Google best cannoli in Manhattan or best burger in Brooklyn. And even as I say those two things, I remember the exact cannoli that I ate, in Little Italy. I remember the burger in Brooklyn that was so unique. And it's closed now, unfortunately, but I've always just wanted to find a burger the same way that it was cooked, and just haven't. So I had all these experiences, and I just would kind of do whatever I wanted all afternoon. And I was on a budget, and I wasn't eating a ton during this trip because, hello, New York City is expensive. There were a lot of bagels. There were a lot of slices on the street. But I would get cocktails in about happy hour in the fancy bars. I would go to, a really nice hotel bar and get a Bloody Mary, and I would eat the little bar nuts, the little snacks that would come with it, and that would be my lunch. Or I remember there's a fancy hotel that had a beautiful art on the walls from the same artist that did the Madeline books, and I remember sitting there and just soaking it in and thinking about who has sat in this bar and who's been in this room, and I would drink my $30 martini and eat my bar nuts and then head out and eat a hot dog off the street for dinner. And I just kept looking for feelings in this city. And it wasn't chasing shows or museums or anything. I didn't do anything like that this trip. I was chasing the feeling of freedom. I was chasing the feeling of experience, of how do I feel in this moment? What does this look like? And that's really how I kept finding parts of me that I didn't know was there. And it was really through travel. And, this wasn't, I bet some people in my life might have looked at my travel days, while I was single. I was single for 2.5 years after my divorce before I was in a relationship. And I did do a lot of traveling over those 2.5 years. And there were probably people that would think, how is she doing that? What is she doing? And truly, it was on a budget and it was because it was important to me. And that really did stay with me. And I met amazing people that trip. The very first day that I got to New York, I did a food tour. That's one of my things when I travel to a new city. I love to do a food tour just because you kind of get some of the history, you kind of get some culture, you get to try foods. And I did a pizza tour in Brooklyn, and the tour guide, her name was Danny. And remember, this was the first day that I was there. And Danny ended up being a special friend that I still talk to. She's come to Utah to visit me. And that trip to New York, she invited me with all of her friends on the 4th of July to watch the fireworks. And I remember saying yes. I said yes, because one thing in therapy that I learned um, during this time, I was really just saying yes to as many things as I could because I was just really wanting to experience life. I had felt like I'd spent so many years living one life and I just wanted experience. And that's how I was finding parts of myself. And it would just kind of unlock another layer of myself through travel. And I remember saying yes to Danny, and I showed up. They had all the snacks and they had wine and they had all the things. And we sat in this blanket on the Hudson River on the Brooklyn side, and we looked at the skyline. We looked at the Statue of Liberty. We watched the most incredible fireworks that I've ever seen in my whole life still. And I can picture it in my head, and I have a picture of it to remember forever. But it ended up being such a special holiday where I wasn't sitting around thinking about being sad or why does this look different or feeling sorry for myself. I was out experiencing new things. And for me, that was what I needed to navigate the change and figuring it out how I could make it work. This is something that I've carried over with my boys. We don't do Christmas gifts. We do a Christmas trip. And I save my money all year and take them somewhere for Christmas that we can have memories. And I don't do presents just because, oh my gosh, I just cannot. Single moms can understand that you look for any way to get rid of all of the hustle and bustle of Christmas because it's so stressful. But our Christmas trips have been really, really special. The two that I think of most are we went to Jamaica, me and Troy and Colt, and had the most amazing time. We rented an Airbnb that was very affordable, and it came with a staff, a chef, and a driver, and we lived like royalty in Jamaica for Christmas, and it was very affordable. And I remember taking as much cash as I could, and when we left, we didn't come home with a penny because we just wanted to leave it in the hands of everybody because the kindness we were given has really stuck with us. And I just remember how hard it was to save for that trip. And then once I was there, it was just all worth it. This last year, I did the same thing, saved up, and I've told the boys, the harder I work and the more money I make, the better the trips get. And that's important to me. It is important to me to give my boys experiences of travel because I look at it just like, tuition for college. It is experience, it's an investment into them, and it will stay with them forever, just like an education. But this last Christmas, we did Ireland. And, there are some years we've done small trips, definitely. San Diego, Florida, where we've had really, really great trips. But the ones that I've really saved for are the ones that have been the most fun, I have to say. But Ireland was incredible. And just seeing experiences through your kids' eyes is bonds you and it changes you as a parent. And, maybe some people it's not that important to, but some people it is. I'm going to give you some other ideas of ways you can navigate holidays besides travel, but, you know, it's just what has worked for me. I think that we all realize that the holidays are hard for most everybody, that most everybody has a negative experience connected to a holiday or some kind of trigger, or that was the time where a parent passed away, or, there's all these moments that can connect to a holiday that make it really, really complicated. And when you realize that, almost everybody is grieving something during the holidays, sometimes it's obvious and sometimes it's invisible, but it's there, and just showing understanding and kindness during these times. And really, if some people just can't even show up for holidays in their way, that's okay too. Just really giving people grace. And these changes, it's really just there's so many ways that life can feel different over the holidays. It could be just kids growing up changes everything. And any kind of parent, you're going to experience that where you have your kids under your roof for so many years and your traditions look one way. And then you grow and life changes and situations change and people grow up. And it's okay to give yourself permission that holidays can look different. I think we just struggle because holidays are built around memories and repetition, and we want things to feel the same. Like life is just so crazy. We hold on to anything that can feel safe, that can feel like normal and a memory. So that's why we hold on to these holidays. But life is changing and life keeps asking us to change. So maybe the goal shouldn't be trying to recreate the old magic of the holidays, but instead just really allowing ourselves to create new magic and not feeling guilty about it. But I know for me, there were years that I definitely thought, this holiday just doesn't look like it used to. It doesn't feel like it used to, that something's wrong because I'm not giving my kids these same memories. But now I just don't think anything is ruined. I think it's just a new beautiful experience to add to our little file folder of all of our years together. And this is a time really where perspective can just shift and you can, rewrite how you see the holidays. So if you're in a season right now where holidays are looking different, I just want you to know that you are not alone at all. You're not failing just because things have changed. And you don't have to force yourself to try to recreate old memories or old traditions just because that's how it used to be. Give yourself permission to create new ones, even tiny little new memories. One thing I think about with our tradition, so I really had to kind of give up some of my expectations around holidays when it comes to the actual day. So like Thanksgiving Day is always on a Thursday. Of course, I always want my boys on Thanksgiving Day, but if it works out where we do Thanksgiving on Friday or we do Thanksgiving on Saturday, any day can be Thanksgiving. And I think when I told myself that I didn't have to connect a holiday with a certain day, I just gave myself permission to show up how it was a healthy way for me to show up. And that's, one thing that can really help you adapt to things that are out of your hands. And the easier you can navigate change, the easier you can navigate life. That is just one of those things that is always in my head. But one thing that we did, I remember when I was married, we'd have these big Christmas dinners. I'd do a Christmas Eve dinner, I'd do a Christmas breakfast and a Christmas Day dinner. And it was just seemed like I was cooking. And honestly, I was stressed a lot. I was cranky, tired. I was trying to do everything, be Mrs. Claus and keep everybody happy and fed and the kitchen cleaned. And I put a lot of pressure on myself during my Mormon motherhood days. And honestly, I call it that because that was the chapter of my life and that's how it's in my head. But I put a lot of unnecessary pressure on myself to have things perfect. And it wasn't because I wanted to show a way to anybody. It really had nothing to do with anybody else. It was just me. My mom gave me beautiful holidays, and if you know my mom, you know that's just who she is. She made every holiday special, and I that's what I grew up with. So it's just naturally what I wanted to give my kids, and I learned pretty quickly that it's different. My mom didn't work outside of the home, and I always have. So why am I trying to create a life that is just not realistic for me when I'm working full time? But for Christmas, I do this Christmas trip with the boys, and then we come home right before Christmas. They go to their dad's house. They have a really fun Christmas with their dad and their step siblings and their cousins and grandparents, and they do it all. And then they come back to me. And mom is typically on the couch. Mom is got a glass of wine in her hands, and mom is ready to see them. And they get there, and we do a charcuterie. We do a huge one. That's been our new tradition for Christmas these last probably 6 or 7 years. I have a huge wood board, and I collect things over December, and then they're in the fridge, because that's the great thing about cured meats and cheeses. They can be in the fridge. You can start gathering them throughout the month. You can gather up all the little pickled vegetables and the chutneys and the jams and the crackers. You can gather everything throughout the month, and then it's just there. And then when the boys show up, they just basically give me a notice. I live about an hour from their dad now, and they say, "We're on our way." And guess what? Mom can have everything ready in an hour, still with that glass of wine in her hand and happy, happy. So for us, that's been a new Christmas tradition that we love. And every once in a while, and we just kind of set it up in the basement on the couch, and we watch movies. We have our holiday movies that we always have to watch, which are like Elf and Christmas Vacation, and It's a Wonderful Life. It's a Wonderful Life is our number one Christmas movie. Our little, we call ourselves the OG3. The OG3, me and the boys, we love It's a Wonderful Life. It's just a special, special movie, and we never miss that one. So that's our new tradition. And it looks so different than it did when I was married, completely different, but it's no less magical. It's no less special. We look forward to it. It's our time together. Quality time is my love language, and I have it. And it doesn't matter if it's 2 days after Christmas or Christmas Day at night. It doesn't literally matter when it is. When they show up, it's Christmas. And that works for us. I think another fun thing that you can do to change up holidays is just your menu. If you always ate a certain meal for Easter, and then now you feel like life looks different because maybe your grandma has passed away and we're doing it at a new house and it just kind of feels different. Change it up. You can do something completely different. Maybe do like breakfast for, brunch for dinner, or Italian night for Easter. It doesn't have to be ham and potatoes and green beans. It can be anything. So maybe think about switching up your menu, and it'll feel different. And it can just be a small little change that kind of creates a new tradition for you. Also, another fun thing is celebrating with friends. Families are so complicated. I think you think that your family's the only one who has, certain little dynamics, but every single family has things going on. Trust me. And sometimes it's nice to have a holiday with friends. Sometimes it's nice to shake it up a little bit and say, "Hey, we're going to do Thanksgiving with, a Friendsgiving instead this year," or just switch it up. It doesn't have to be the exact same every year to be a tradition. It can be, "Oh, we're going to be with different families, a family this year, a different family that year." Just completely switch it up. And, friends are the family that you choose. I have a sign in my home that says that. And it's so true. We can make these holiday traditions with friends, and it doesn't matter if you're having issues with your family or not. It's okay to switch it up. It's okay to try new things, and just experiment with it and see how it feels. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It doesn't matter what people think about it. It just see how it feels. And if it feels good, keep it up. And if it doesn't feel good, then make a shift. Just try to look at it like that. Nothing has to be permanent. I always think too, the families that volunteer together for certain holidays is really special, whether it's like a food bank. I know that my son on his mission got to do that quite a bit, and I have never done that. I think that would be special to do, but finding a way to volunteer to give back over the holidays absolutely is a tradition that can kind of change the vibe and change things when we do service and we put other people first. Of course, we're just going to feel that love and that sense of belonging back to us. So traditions are really just repeated moments that make people feel safe and connected and alive, and you're allowed to build those again whenever you want to. So I think back about the best parts of my life really were born during seasons that I just would have never chosen on purpose. They were all a result of a shift that I had really no choice in making. When I've made these big changes, it's just me against my gut and my inner voice where I don't really have a choice. I know what I need to do. I know what I need to change. And when I don't do it, it does not feel good. And when I make the change, I know I'm on the right track. I just go off of how it feels. And it doesn't matter if it's Mother's Day, Thanksgiving, 4th of July, any holiday that feels lonely ends up teaching you really how to create joy intentionally. So, the trips that I could barely afford at the time gave me perspective and confidence and memories, both when I traveled alone and trips with the boys. And traveling alone, if you guys thought I was crazy for going to New York for 10 days alone, try it out. There is some kind of magical thing about traveling by yourself where you literally can do whatever you want. You There is just such a fun feeling of being in a new city and just thinking, "Okay, I can go here, there, anywhere. I can go home. I can do whatever I want." You don't have to ask anybody for permission, and you just go off your vibe, and it's just such a freeing experience. So if you have never traveled alone, think about that. Think about where you would go, what you would do, and it could be close by. It could be a road trip. We have so many great national parks here in Utah that's really become a kind of a getaway thing for me as well. When I just need a quick little break for a holiday, New Year's Eve. Hey, if you've never been to Zion on New Year's Eve, it's pretty fun. So there's all kinds of new things that you can do for different holidays. And so if life looks different for you right now, or maybe you're just not sure what the next holidays are going to look like based on changes in your family or your location where you live, just think about this is the beginning of this version of it. It doesn't have to be what it looks like forever, but we're going to try something new and maybe it's exactly what you need. So, hopefully, you guys are thinking about something you can do for your next holiday. If you're itching for a little bit of change, start thinking now. But all in all, we are lucky, we are blessed to have beautiful holidays with people that we love. And at the end of the day, the rest is just extra. Thank you for laying low with me, and you have a good day. Thank you.